Hello, this is Lisa Rose here on Connect to Love on PRN-FM on this absolutely spectacular day, and I'm joined by the incredible, always amazing Michael J. Russ. I want to welcome you, Michael, and congratulate you on your 92-foot drive. Is it a drive, or what was it?
No, okay, you got that all messed up.
Shot.
But that's okay. It's about 94 yards.
94 yards.
Taking a little white ball from 94 yards away and putting it in a little 4-inch hole on a green. It's not something that happens all the time, and I'm always pleased when I am blessed with that occurrence. It's the longer you play, the luckier you get. It's kind of like life.
Yeah.
You know,
I was going to say, just like life, Michael.
The more you live it, the luckier you get. The more you believe in yourself, the luckier you get. You know.
Although it may not seem like I am paying attention, I was paying attention. I just got my numbers and measurements wrong, incorrect. But one of the things that I love about you, Michael, is that you always give me little treasures, like little nuggets. If I was a squirrel, you'd be like, here's a peanut, here. And you send me these things. And I was thinking about it last night when I was doing the dishes, because I thought, these are points to ponder. And then the points to ponder make my mind wander into wonder. And I'm like, that is just the essence of how you and I work together. And so Michael had sent me a video that was actually several of them, and they all had a common theme, and it had to do with the word definition. And so I thought, isn't that interesting? What's the definition of definition? So I looked it up, and it was a statement of the exact meaning of a word, especially in the dictionary, but it also had a secondary meaning, which is the degree of distinctness in an outline of an object, image, or sound. And I thought to myself, isn't this interesting? And then so I thought, well, because my mind was wandering, I thought, well, who actually decides on what was the definition of different things? And so I went into the history of dictionaries and found out that the earliest dictionary, and Michael, you're just going to smile when I say this, was about 2300 BC and contained Sumerian and Akkadian words. And then, isn't that just because Michael and I were having a conversation about Sumeria, and as this little trail of breadcrumbs or peanuts was following, then the next thing I discovered was that then the oldest surviving dictionary was Chinese. It existed, that's still in existence. It dates back to 3000 BC. But it's so interesting to me because how we decided that we needed to define words and then arrange them alphabetically, really. And I think the first English dictionary goes back to the 1600s. But I just thought it was so fascinating because now, instead of going to a library, we have everything really at the tip of our fingers. But over the course of time, and depending on where you are in the world, definitions vary and definitions of words vary. But Michael and I, we were speaking about it in how we define ourselves. And I thought about going back to the definition of definition, the degree of distinctness. And I love that languaging, the degree of distinctness. And I think that's really where a lot of us kind of question that. What makes us distinct? What really defines us? What is the definition of Lisa? What's the definition of Michael? I mean, we can certainly look up the meaning, but, there's so much more to Michael other than just a name, a 94-yard golf player. But you're more than that, too.
Golf kind of golfer is one of the definitions that I give myself because because I've been doing it. It was introduced to me at 8 years old by my mother and father. They both used to play when we were overseas in the Philippines. So when you're talking about what we have, what defines you, generally there's different levels of definition, and for me, golfer is one of them, because I embrace the game. Golfer, world traveler, a podcaster, lover of life, wine enthusiast. There are things that we do that kind of define who we are from just a basic 3D level, and then there's the spiritual level. For me, I'm connected to my guide. I'm connected to to my higher self in a deeper way now than I have before. But that's another sort of a spiritual definition that that I give myself, and we all have various things. I guess I think Bashar was talking about your passions. What excites you? What do you enjoy doing with your life? And that kind of defines you. I mean, I'm an Etsy shop. I love designing. I love sharing ideas with people and leaving people better than I found them. That defines me as well. It's smiling and being able to see people light up when they're enjoying what they're doing, if that is something that you're helping facilitate. It's fun. I mean, there's different ways. One of the certain things, I think it's interesting to talk about some of the things that don't define you, because there's a lot of things that actually do define you. And it was really strange, because it was about 50 years ago that I said, hey, when I was like 15 years old, I said, I was at that particular point very into what defined what I would and wouldn't do, having a philosophy of life, a code of morals and ethics that you wouldn't violate because they went against your grain. They went against who you were, how you defined yourself, right? Which is something that is kind of missing in my view nowadays. People, what they will and won't do. How you will and won't treat the opposite sex or your partner or whoever it is that you're in love with. What you will and won't do with friends, with your peers. If they're suggesting something that within you have an immediate negative reaction to, you have to basically own up to that and own your sovereignty and say, no, this is a line I won't cross. What is that line? Do you know what that line is for you? Because right now, people are doing just crazy stuff. Will you go and shoplift? Will you go and steal something from somebody? What line will you not cross? And with some people, I say to themselves, it's probably good to define what you won't do, so that you can have a better idea, contrastingly, what you will do, what you're into, what does define you, because they're opposites of the same coin, right? There's negative and positive on the coin. That's all there is, negative and positive. So what negative things will you not engage in? Well, I made a decision that I'm not talking badly about myself. I'm never going to say something that isn't complimentary of myself. That's not me anymore, and I've ingrained that in me 35 years now. And to the point where if I find myself even thinking about it, I immediately change the tone of my thoughts to now think something complimentary. That's really where we're at. And you have to be able to do that. You have to do that. So when you do, guess what? You have a better sense of self. You have a higher sense of self, right? And that's where I begin when I talk to people. If I'm having a conversation with a group of people, if I'm a speaker or whatever, you got to come out with that. Right now, there's not a lot of that. There's so much information coming at you, coming at young people now, that your sense of self can be skewed to something that is not you. And that may or may not be right for you. And the litmus test is always, how does it make you feel? Are you excited about that? Are you passionate about that? Or are you just doing it because there's money in it? or because it allows you to get other things. You don't like it yet, and you've got nothing good to say about it, yet you're doing it, and the benefits derived from it allow you to do other things that you do enjoy. The question is, after 8 hours of doing what you don't do, how is that going to manifest physically for you down the road?
Right. Right.
So the definition thing is really cool.
Yeah, and I think that was when in the little snippet that you sent me, that's exactly what Bashar talked about. He said you have these constructs, these things that you're defined. Your parents will say you have to succeed in life. You have to go to college because you have to be successful. You have to have money. And then in the same breath, money isn't good because it makes greed and the whole different thing. So you start getting these contrasting things. And I was thinking about it when you sent me that because I was thinking about, like, in regards to food. As a child, finish everything on your plate. And then you'll maybe, don't eat that because that's going to make you fat. So then it's very confusing to this this meat suit is what a lot of people are referring to, and what you want to attract. And I found it so interesting because one of the things he said, and this was what was so integral about definition, he talked about how we define ourselves as really the ingrained beliefs, and specifically determining if that belief is how you've defined yourself in any relationship, in any situation. And I think about some of the ways that I used to define myself. I was shy. My shyness, I think, came from perhaps moving a lot, always being the new kid. Yeah, I was shy. I was very shy. I'm not that way anymore. It took one of these college professors who was teaching speech, and when we came into the class, we're like, where's the teacher? And he was sitting out hanging in with all the students pretending he was a student. And he said, don't buy the book. So that's how we got to know everybody. And we're like, okay, where's the teacher? Yeah, for the class. Yeah. And we're all expecting.
The way you walked in?
Yeah, but it was very interesting. Yeah, but it was a gateway for me. I certainly don't define myself as that now. I define myself, I like people. I love being out and always meeting new people, being curious about the world. I would define myself as curious, and also a wandering wanderer with the points to ponder that Michael J. Russ inspires me with. But, I find it interesting because now, especially where we are on the planet, as from all of the teachers that I tune into, it's all about this consciousness of love and this new revolution and our connection to love. And do we define ourselves as a being of love? I would say yes. I would believe that you would say that as well. I define myself as very loving and caring.
Yeah, absolutely. That it's important to delineate. There's a lot of 3D things. The things that I was talking about initially were 3D definitions of ourselves, the definitions that we see, that people see, that others are instantly engaged with. And then there are, what Bashar was talking about, the definitions of ourselves from an inner content, beliefs, thoughts, things that we think about ourselves, our inner conversations, those definitions of ourselves. The beautiful thing is most people are unaware of those definitions. What definitions, what thought viruses are driving our definition, our beliefs about ourselves, our definitions of ourselves, what we think of ourselves, and how we're perceiving ourselves in the world, in our own bodies in the world, and that's even more important. The 3D will take care of itself, and as we always say, once you change your inner definition, your outer world changes as well to correspond with that, because we've changed our frequency, which is the whole idea. Keep elevating your frequency every day, all day. And I love the concept of, how do they call it, searching your inner being.
He called it, I think, the true being, that you're true being, and aligning yourself with that more harmonious core definition in any situation. And And I really love that. And he said, especially when somebody's struggling to create abundance in their life, they feel it's very difficult to do so. So when you kind of go, and I guess it's the inner work, that you go deep into the definitions. And that's why I love so much that word and the definition of definition, because going back to that same, alignment, that there is this outline of us, and whether we call it our aura, our soul, and we have so many different things that we can tune into, and I love, and a lot of what you hear is talking about your higher self. I like the languaging of true self. What's true, what's right, always feels good, and how we want to express that to the world, and that's how we raise our vibration. But I love that, Michael, that you brought up that it's very it's a curious time, because a lot of people don't know how to define themselves, and they're looking to fit into other types of boxes that maybe isn't what they really should be doing.
Yes, that's very true. I mean, let's put it this way: if you're not aware of the definitions that that are driving you, the inner definitions that are driving you, then you're really, as according to Bashar and others, not going to be able to change your outer world. Your outer world is being driven by these inner definitions. And they're your perceptions, they're your feelings about yourself, they're what you think about yourself, and your life and yourself and how you fit into the context of the world. And everybody wants to change their outer world, which is why the concept of manifestation right now is it's everywhere. You cannot escape it. If you go on YouTube, somebody's trying to help you manifest something, right? And everybody has a way of doing it, and they want you to see their way of doing it, embrace their way of doing it. And as I've always said, if you don't know who you are, you're going to end up being basically defining yourself as someone else. You really are. You're going to define yourself as someone. If you don't know who the heck you are, you don't know what's driving you, then you're going to adopt somebody else's definitions, and it will play out in your own life. It is playing out in your own life, so to speak, and that's one of the challenges that we have in our world today. We have generations of young people that are, in my view, this is just my view, not being given the opportunity to learn who they are, to define who they are, to think about and ponder who they are and what it is that they believe and why they believe it. Because that's one of the things that Bashar was talking about, is that you want to change your life. However, there are certain definitions and beliefs that we have that are keeping us mired where we are, not allowing us to elevate our frequencies, not allowing us to shift our outer world, because we aren't really familiar. And his mantra is, get to know what beliefs are driving you, and then you can change those beliefs. You can dispel those beliefs, and thereby adopt new beliefs that are more in line with what it is that you really want in your life, the person you want to be, the outer world that you'd like to be experiencing. And it's fascinating stuff, and it's a conundrum for some people. It's a conundrum because it is so new, it's so different. And some of you and I kind of chuckle all the time about some of the people that in some of Bashar's videos. And by the way, I guess we should tell our audience that we will at some point give them, within the definition of this podcast, give them a link to Bashar's some of the things on YouTube about Bashar, who is a being that Darryl Anka has been channeling for over 30 years, I think, or 40 years?
Almost 40, yeah, 40 years.
40 years.
Yeah.
the thing about it is it resonates with you, it resonates with me, it's resonating with a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are channeling entities at this particular point with really valuable information, extremely valuable. And what's interesting about it, as we have discussed, is that this information is, there's so many people doing it because not everyone resonates with every message, with every entity. And so we have a couple of entities that whose information about living a fun and exciting and passionate and joyous life, happy life, is that's what they're helping us understand how to do. And that it's so our listeners here on PRN FM and on our podcast need to just kind of see what resonates with them, see what resonates with you with some of this. The information is brilliant. It's brilliant.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
It makes you think to the point where it makes you think about your life and what about your life you'd like to change. It's not that you don't like something. You may not be fond of something that is happening in your life. However, what's interesting is that when you're not happy with something, you have to ask yourself, what beliefs am I harboring that are leading to me not liking this?
Right. Yeah, and he also talked about the feelings and the behaviors that stem from the definitions. And I don't know if you recall this, Michael, but there was a lady in the audience, and he said, well, how about if I just say to you, you are a shakuda? And he said, how do you feel about that? And she's like, I don't feel anything about that. He said, but if I said that you were stupid, that brings up feelings. That brings up, because that word has meaning to you. Yeah. But the word ashakuda is meaningless. So you remain neutral, and you realize that, well, it doesn't mean anything to me. And just by the definition, you can choose whether it's a positive or negative thing. And so, obviously, if you go to a foreign country, like when I went to Africa, I didn't speak Swahili. I mean, they could have said anything to me, and I would have been none the wiser. Right. Exactly. No, and absolutely. So, but it's interesting that we have conditioned ourselves to have an emotional reaction, whether it be positive or the opposite of positive, to different words or different things that are shown in the media or on television or even written in a book. I was listening to Salman Rushdie's masterclass, and the only thing that I knew of him was all the controversy about the one book that he had written. I had no idea that he was an author. Yes, Satanic Verses. But I had no idea that he was an author of all these other different types of genre. Right.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating to me because he was talking about the 1001 Arabian Nights and the history of that book, and he said it was really not a book for children. But again, culturally, we have assigned a different meaning to it. Oh yeah, no, that's a great story, Aladdin and the lamp. But it's a very and I think that was what the point of how Bashar, or even the conversation when you brought it up to me, and that I started thinking about how we define different things in our lives and how we react to it and what I choose to do with that information. Whether I let it bother me and I stew on it. I have enough sense of self-worth. I define myself in perhaps a different way because of my upbringing. My parents were very supportive and loving. Of whatever I wanted to try, they said, go for it. Not every child has that, is that fortunate, and I recognize that. But there are, no matter where you come from, ways that you can cultivate that by surrounding yourself with people. I was saying to somebody the other day, not everybody speaks my language, and I understand that. Michael and I have these very unique and amazing conversations off the air, and I think for somebody that was listening, if we were in a restaurant and somebody was in the booth next to us, they'd be like, what are they talking about? Because they may not have a frame of reference, but perhaps it would pique some curiosity to explore. And I've overheard conversations. I'm like, what was that about? That's how I cured my asthma. I overheard a pharmacist telling a lady how she could cure her asthma. I thought, well, I've got some vested interest in that. And after he was done and she had completed the transaction, I asked, how can I help myself? And whether it be a physical ailment or an emotional challenge or a belief system, I think that's a good question. How can I help myself define myself differently? Not in the terms the way the world is defining things, but the way that I want to define myself.
Well, I love your example there. It's interesting because I would make a wild guess and say that you went from I have asthma, I am an asthmatic, to I breathe clearly now. I am free of asthma. And that definition change came from new knowledge, from new enlightenment. And
I don't even think about it anymore. It's not even.
Right.
It's not even.
That's
in
right.
It's not
part
reference.
of. You wouldn't think about it because it's no longer part of your mental DNA, so to speak. Now, no longer part of your belief system. And this is really interesting. Dr. Joseph Murphy, from 20s or 30s, he said something very, very cool. He said, "You are what you say I am to. You are what you say I am to." And I listen to what people say I am to. I am this, I am that, I'm this, I'm a cancer survivor, I am, and I have this, I am this. I am this, I am that. And when you say I am unworthy versus I am worthy, there's a complete different set of energy that goes with each one of those. A different frequency that resonates with each one of those. I can, I can't, I am not. I am this, I am that. And people, when they say that, when they use that I am, it's incredibly powerful. And it's why it's the first two words you want to put in front of a statement that defines who you are, instead of what you don't want to be, what you don't consider yourself as. And it is interesting. Once you change something, it's like me when I decided to give up negative self-talk. It's not innate to me anymore. It's not something that resonates with me. So if I have a thought, nowadays, if something happens, the first inclination is not to beat myself up, not to make myself a victim, not to tell myself that I did something wrong, or that thing was stupid, or you're stupid, you did this thing. People beat themselves up with I am statements all day long. I'm such an idiot. I'm such a, what? Wait, hang on a second. It's just a thing. It's just a thing that happened. I am stupid. I am stupid. I am ignorant. Oh, wow. And even they joke about it and everything, but if you keep that mantra of I am stupid, I am ignorant, I am, whatever the thing may be that isn't what you really want to define you, it sticks. When you shift that language, you shift the energy. When you shift the energy, you elevate your level of frequency and you move past that. And things in your life change. You don't really sometimes notice it. However, you notice how you feel about doing it. When you say positive things about yourself, it feels good. It feels awesome.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you brought up not only Joseph Murphy, but the I am, because and I think it was Glenn Brooks who had first introduced me to Emile Coué, who every day I'm getting better and better. He said every day in every way I'm getting better and better. And you say that over and over again. And that dates back to, I think, he lived between like 1857, 1920s, in the 1920s. But he was a pharmacist and a psychologist. It was like one of the first people who did autosuggestion, self-hypnosis. Jose Silva, who did the Silva method for mind. Right. And he took that even one step further. He thought, well, every day in every way I'm not only getting better and better, but he put it towards other types of things. With as far as abundance, I'm becoming more abundant. I have more in my bank account. I am wealthy. I am happy. I am joyful. I am all of those different things. And I think what's so fascinating, Jose Silva's method sort of came out of a need because his kids were not doing well in school. And they said that, there's no way that they can improve. And he just took the bull by the horns and said, okay, you know what, I'm going to figure things out. And he learned how to tap into the alpha and theta waves of the brain and actually change something through not only just guided imagery, but other things as well. And his children excelled. I think it was just in the span of a year time. Their marks.
Eliminate the negative, reinsert positive, and it's not rocket science. It's just the way things work. We really aren't taught when we're younger about language and the importance of it and the power of it, the either empowering or disempowering aspect of language. And what we do know is that people we respect, we listen to. So when an authoritative figure, like a teacher, in this particular case, is going to tell you you're not going to amount to anything. If this is what you continue to do, you're not going to amount to anything. You're not going to go to college. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. And when you hear that from an authoritative figure, that's a thought virus. It becomes a thought virus if you believe it, begin to believe it, if you make it part of your belief system. And that sort of thing can stick with you for decades. Mm-hmm. You don't know why you're not doing better than you are. And it's a root belief that you'll never amount to anything no matter what you do. Those kinds of thought viruses that have become root beliefs exist in people 50 and 60 years old, 70, 80 years old. They unless you ferret them out and eliminate them, they will impact every aspect of your life. And I'm not, my book's Conversely. I said I outlined when I was talking about thought viruses and eliminating them, getting to the bottom of these beliefs that you have that you don't know where they come from. I ferreted out. I actually shared a belief that about when I dropped out of college after 2 3/4 years. My mother had said, you need a college degree to succeed in life, and you never succeed without one. You got to go back and get that thing or whatever. She says, you can go out and do whatever you're going to do, but don't forget to go back and get that thing because you really never won't go anywhere without it. So I didn't realize that stuck with me until I got into a position where I was in business, I was in sales, which was very much like my own business. And I was around a bunch of people who had college degrees, BAs, masters, and PhDs, and I was doing the same thing they were doing, right? And I was thinking to myself, that thought virus was literally holding me back. It was preventing me from succeeding because I was thinking to myself, how can I succeed when these other guys with, BAs and masters and PhDs are doing this same thing? How can I be on the same level with them? And once I figured out, oh, wait a minute, I remember now. It took a little bit. It took like 6 months to a year, but I finally figured it out. Oh, my gosh, I can succeed. I am succeeding doing the same thing they're doing. Now let's kick it up a notch. Let's eliminate this thought virus, this idea that, I may not have a college degree. However, I have a world education. I've been around the world. I've seen places. I've spoken with people. I know how to connect with people. You start listing all of the things that you are very, very good at: connecting with people, making friends, conversation, talking about anything. I like to tell my girlfriend. She actually tells me, you know something about everything. And I said, I know just enough.
That's a nice, very nice compliment.
Yeah, it is. I said, I know just enough about just about everything to have a conversation with someone who I don't know. Somebody will come up to me and they'll be talking about their basketball team or whatever, and all of a sudden I'll come out with some statistic I heard at some particular point I picked up about that particular lately.
I'm sorry.
And they go, oh, you know that? Yeah, well, I don't know where I got it from. I don't tell them that, but it's part of the conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It keeps them talking about their passion and what they're excited about. And everybody loves to talk about their passion and what they're excited about, be it basketball, football, gambling, whatever it is that they, golf, tennis, baseball. Oh my gosh, there's so many statistics, and it's fun to share the excitement of somebody else's passion. It's fun to share. I don't have to love it. I don't have to watch it. I just love sharing the excitement that other people have about what they're excited about, what they're passionate about, and it's fun. And allowing them the opportunity to say what they're passionate about and share that with you is, in my view, a gift. And it's something that everybody needs to learn how to do, because we live in this world and there's so much excitement and passion around. It's not just about us. As I tell somebody, it's not just about you. You connect with other people. Connection is the foundation of everything, and that's just one of the ways that you can do it. Get people talking about what they're excited about, their passion.
And what's so interesting is that little piece of paper that I got after 4 years of university. Nobody's ever asked to see. I don't even really know where it is. In my house. I never have felt the need to hang anything like that up on the wall.
Right.
And when I went to school, I was in pre-med. That was sort of my thing, and because of life circumstances, that wasn't what I ended up doing. I ended up starting a graphic design and marketing business, and it was sort of interesting, Michael, because I had the same experience. Here I went to school. I was an arts and science major, but I was in the world and going to a lot of events with other designers, and I thought the same thing. Well, I'm not that. I never went to design school. Well, I can't be as good as them. I'm like, wow, they went. So it didn't really matter that I had that other piece of paper because I felt less. And then I started seeing things that they created, and I thought, well, actually, I'm pretty creative. I can do a lot of stuff. I was completely self-taught. I didn't, at the time when I started my business, and I was thinking about this the other day, I didn't even own my own computer. I borrowed my boyfriend's computer. I didn't own a printer, so I would go to, at the time, it was Kinko's, and so they had half off on the computers after midnight. And so I would go there after hours, and I would print out all my stuff that I had to give to clients. And, I remember buying my first LaserJet and thinking, wow, and just the computer and all of those things. But I never let it stop me. I was going to figure out a way, no matter what it was, because this is what I saw, a possibility that I could create a good livelihood for myself. And it did that. Having that business allowed me to explore all the other avenues that I wanted to and really define what my joy was and travel like you have. I mean, I find I define myself as a traveler. I love to learn about new cultures. I love to go to out-of-the-way restaurants that nobody's even heard of. It's not on the map, and have conversations with people and try new foods and experience life. But that's how I define myself. Other people, that they may not be comfortable, and I think that no matter what it is, whatever you decide to align yourself with, you allow that to be the core definition of what you want to be, the person that you want to be, not what somebody or society or whomever says that you should be.
Yeah,
and
I agree. What's most important to me about what you said is how you basically, you defined you branched out from what you thought you were supposed to do, and kind of discovered what you were passionate about, something that made you feel joy. And at the time, it was doing graphic design work. It was doing that. I mean, there's nothing, in my view, more exciting than being creative when you're actually creating something from nothing, which is wonderful. But I'm going to go back to something and say about college is that I've done a lot of thinking about it since, and I've come to the understanding that college is really something that, if you apply yourself correctly, will help you become more worldly, more cosmopolitan. And I had already had that by the time I was 15, right? I was already worldly. I was already cosmopolitan. I already live in 4 different countries and had seen most of the things that people were reading about in books. I'd already seen them, like in person, right? And so when it comes to, and also it's about connecting with other people. It's about developing life skills. Connection is one of those life skills, the ability to connect with people. And people who are shy and stay in their shell when they're in school, and when they leave school they're still in a shell, haven't really utilized their time there. Because if you simply focus on the grades and shut everything else out, those other things, those connections that you make, are invaluable. There are people who know people that, for 50, 60 years that they made the connection in college or in high school or wherever it may be, trade school, wherever it may be. And I've always said, everybody has skills, talents, gifts that they're born with. And it's up to each and every one of us to figure out what those things are, because those gifts, those skills, those talents, you can rely on them to ground you, they can be grounding from a perspective of making you feel absolutely wonderful when everything else around you is falling apart, if that's what's going on. You can feel good, you can feel joy, you can feel happiness, you can feel love for yourself and love for life when you engage in the things that make you feel those things. And it's fun. I don't make music from drums, but I love playing. It makes me feel awesome. I used to, but I came to understand that being a drummer was more about being comfortable in front of large groups of people, which helped me in my speaking. I'm very comfortable in front of large groups of people because I grew up playing in front of large groups of people. And I made that connection decades ago. And why was I so comfortable when I was standing in front of a crowd? Because my drum teacher, when I was 7 years of age, put me in front of 200 people at the O Club in Taiwan, right, to play a song.
Wow.
Yeah. Come on up, Michael, on a Saturday night, and the place is packed. It's a dinner. It was supper club. It was leveled. It was a leveled supper club. The Officers Club was a supper club. That's back in the 60s. That's what they were. So you had the dance floor. You had the band, right, like a big band. And then you had, but it was circular, oval sort of, where you had different levels, and you ate. And you enjoyed dancing, and you enjoyed, the music from whoever was playing on stage. That's the way they were set up back then. I don't think that's the way it is now. As a matter of fact, we haven't had anything like that since. However, that's the way it was set up. So I was sitting up there playing in front of, as a kid, 7 years old, I don't know, knee-high to a grasshopper, playing Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass with the band in front of everybody else.
That's so fantastic.
Developing focus and and I became very, very comfortable. I understood, this is really cool. I love this. I really love this. And you never know why you're drawn to something. You never know. But if you deny yourself, if you're drawn to something and you deny engaging in it, you'll never really know. You'll never really know what you can and can't do. I built fences. I've built retaining walls, for my home, I've put in 3 or 4 sprinkler systems. There's things you can learn that you love to do. Yeah, you don't know what you can do unless you get out and you just do it. And
totally.
Self-satisfaction that comes from doing any of that by jumping off. And I know people who spend a lot of time on YouTube learning how to do things, and it's a great resource for gaining knowledge about something you don't know, which is, in my view, the best thing about YouTube or those videos.
Oh, absolutely. I'm grateful. I have a rug shampooer that I need to have fixed, and it's a professional one, and I turned it on the other day to shampoo a rug, and all the water started squirting out the top. And, of course, it was like an episode of I Love Lucy, like, okay, well, maybe if I do this, then it'll stop. And so then, of course, I turn it on again, and more water squirts out every which way. But Sunday, but I found a little video, and I was so grateful because this guy's like, well, do you have this machine? And this is the part, and this is where you order it. It was like $9, and this is how you fix it, and be careful not to do this because then you're going to have to buy this part. And so I'll tackle that probably this weekend.
You'll love it. You feel from turning that thing on and knowing you fixed it is absolutely amazing. I saw a video about a guy about how to fix a squeaky door, a door where the top was kind of squeaked, or the bottom, when you closed it, it rubbed, And it was the simplest thing. Take the door off the hinges, take a hammer, hit the what do you call that thing? Hit the deal that the door goes. The hinge. Hit the hinge. Knock the hinge with a hammer. Put the door back on. Problem solved. I was like, what?
What really? A great metaphor, though. Really. I mean, and actually it is, because that was what Bashar said about, like, when you experience an emotional negative reaction, you go back and you look at and recognize that it doesn't have anything to do with you. So that squeakiness didn't really have anything to do with the door. It had to do with the hinge. And then, you trail back and you go, well, I don't really like the way that sounds, so I'm going to fix it. And then you question whether or not you believe it's true about yourself. I mean, if I told myself, well, I could never fix that, I couldn't learn to fix it, but I look at it like, well, it's not rocket science, but I guess if I had to learn rocket science, I could learn rocket science too. I'm sure that there's somebody that would explain it to me.
It's true. How many times have you had somebody say to you, I'm so clumsy. I am so clumsy, right?
Defining themselves by that.
Yeah, defining themselves as being clumsy. And if every time you think about the words I am, you think what Joseph Murphy said, what I say I am to I am, that's who you are. You are what you say I am to. And I'm like, wow, okay, so let's be a little more careful with what we use those words, how we use those words with regard to yourself. I mean, let's pay a little more attention and be delicate and really attune those two words to what we aspire to be. If you're clumsy,
absolutely,
then you don't want to say I am clumsy. You want to say completely the opposite of that, right? I have balance. I am balanced. I can do this. I'm whatever it may be. That is the way that you move. You start to dispel some of those definitions by changing your language.
100%. Yeah, I love, like, I do a lot of classes through Masterclass, and I just went through Walter Mosley's class, and it was so interesting, and it's amazing, because whatever you just said, Michael, just made me think of it, because in the Masterclass, he said, I am an African American. He said, but I'm a writer. And he said, and most people know me for these historical mysteries, but I write science fiction. I write all these things. And he said, and when I wrote a book about Judaism, it included Judaism. So he said, well, how can you write it? You're black. You don't know anything about being Jewish. He said, well, actually, my mother was Jewish, so I guess that makes me Jewish. But he had been a programmer. And he didn't start writing until, I believe he was like 34. And he said, when he was doing the Masterclass, he said, for all of you who say, well, I'm not a writer, I'm not defined by that word because I'm too old. to even start writing. He said probably, for most writers, you haven't even experienced life until you're 34. And it was such a fantastic, refreshing perspective. I've not read any of his books, but I'll tell you they're next on my list because of just his unique perspective of how he sees the world. It was fantastic. It was really fantastic.
But that's the thing. It's this. We don't know. We're using language all day long. We're either saying it or we're thinking it. We're thinking things about ourselves all day long. This little inner conversation, this diatribe about ourselves never goes away. And when we begin to understand what that conversation is, what the direction of that conversation, is it positive or is it negative? And you start to make more of it positive than negative, and you keep working at that. And your life will change. How you feel about yourself will change dramatically. And that is what I attempt to get across to people, is that diatribe going on in your head has purpose. And when you begin to harness it, you will empower yourself in ways that you never really knew possible. And if I could simply stand in front of a million kids and just simply say that, you have value, and your language should reflect that you have value. You know, people ask me who I am. Yeah, I'm African American by definition by government definition. And I'm always surprised when I see myself in the mirror, because I consider myself a global citizen. I don't define myself by color or race or anything else. I'm a global citizen on this planet. I'm a soul in a. This is my suit of clothes that I'm wearing. You know, in this physical life, this is my suit of clothes. This is the suit of clothes I've chosen. However, I don't define myself by that, and never have. And when you start defining yourself by what you look like, what race you have or whatever, you start boxing yourself in. You box yourself in, and now you are unable to relate to and move out of that in terms of other things. Like this gentleman, African American, but his mother was Jewish. He wrote a book about it. You know, I mean, that's the kind of thinking that allows you to expand your horizons mentally, and your outer world, expands your outer world. And for anybody to say, oh, you can't write a book about that. No, I can study anything. I can speak to zillions of people about and write a book about it, about my thoughts with regard to that, right? That you can do that. Just like I write a book about self-talk or whatever, it's because it's what I do.
Right. You know, I'm chuckling because when you said that, Michael, it made me think about one of the other things he mentioned in the masterclass. He said, I think he'd written at least 20-something books, and he was writing in a different genre, and he sent it out to different publishers, and he got lots of rejections. He said, just expect it, just expect to be rejected. And he said what was so fascinating was somebody sent him rejection letter back that said, if you want to learn how to write, I can teach you, something to that effect, which I had to just chuckle at, because here he's received all of these awards. He's just the accolades and just the list of all the different things that he's done is just really phenomenal, and the contributions as a writer. I think he was inducted into New York State Writers Hall of Fame at one point. But, yeah, it was just so interesting. But if he would have, and I thought that's pretty interesting, to get somebody to say, well, I'll teach you how to be a writer. And this is just an editor at a publishing house, and not really realizing, I guess, even who he was. But it just goes to show you he's not defined. He doesn't say, well, I can only do this. I could never bridge from mysteries into science fiction and the different types of things, even if I have an interest in it. And he says, no, you know what? You absolutely have to follow your heart and honor what is your truth. And I think that's even, it's knowing your true self and not being stagnant. Just because that's the genre people know you by, or you were a bricklayer and you want to become a fashion designer, go for it.
Yeah.
Don't be defined by what you've done in the past. Open up new doorways and gateways to the future of what you see yourself becoming, and believe it.
So true. Amazing. I agree with you 110%. I mean, it really is the case. If we really knew what we were capable of, it would scare us. That's my view. If you really knew what you were capable of, it would scare the heck out of you, because it would so dwarf, what you have, what you think about yourself, and what you think now about yourself. It would be so much more expansive. You'd be like, oh my gosh, you'd become overwhelmed with that. But we all have that capability. We all have the capability to shift our lives on a dime and shift our thinking. And just the concept of happiness. Someone said the other day, it's such a chore, why is it so difficult or tough to be happy? It's so hard to be happy. And my comment to them simply is, you've talked yourself into not being happy. Your belief system about happiness needs an overhaul. And once you start shifting your perceptions about happiness and how you fit into the structure of your life and everything going on, you'll be happier. And you just got to get rid of all that negative language and perceptions that happiness is something out there, in la la land somewhere. It's not. And we live in a society where it's, because of advertising, in order to sell things, you have to convince people that they don't have what your product is going to give them. You're not happy because you don't have this thing, that thing, my thing, our thing. So all of a sudden you want that because you think you're going to be happy having it. And the people who have, the people on our street, 2 jet skis, a camper, a boat, 3 cars, whatever it may be. And I walk by and I say, are you using all of those? And they're like, well, I would, not as much as I'd like. Sooner or later they become a ball and chain, like around your neck, because you have to take care of them, you have to maintain them. You're not using them as much as you thought you would, because that thing was going to make you happy. And I'm going, I could be just as happy going down to the beach and renting one for an hour and then giving it back, right? You want the experience of life. You want the experience of it. You don't want the tangible. You want the experience of this 3D world, this 4D world, 5D world that we're living in. You want that. And we don't need everything else. And that's the one thing that when I share that with people, it shifts their perspective a little bit. You want the experience. So spend your money on the experience of whatever it is. I like small ship cruising. We'll spend our money on that. The experience of it. We've got stories we could tell forever about small ship cruising. Where we went, what we did, the little things that happened, the little things that most people considered adversity that we just laughed about. Those things. Because you can laugh about anything, right? Absolutely anything. So, wonderful.
Yeah, no, and I think if there's one thing that we can all agree on is if, you want to define yourself by anything, define yourself through love and our connection to each other and our connection to love.
I knew you'd work in the title of our show, wouldn't you?
You know me. But it's the truth.
It is true. We haven't spent enough time on love, but love is self-love, love for others, unconditional love of yourself and others. So incredibly valuable. Thank you for bringing that up. And it is love. Love of yourself is a perception. Don't let everything outside of you lead you to believe that loving yourself is impossible because that thing happened to you. It has nothing to do with that thing. love yourself or you don't. Keep it simple. And I know you love yourself. I love myself, and I take care of myself, and experience life from that perspective. And wow, how things will change.
Mm-hmm.
Don't believe what other people tell you.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't define yourself in any way, shape, or form. And I think, I've got a project for you and I, Michael, we'll start our own dictionary where we can write our own definitions and really learn to co-create with the universe in lots of different ways. I think that's really much needed. Maybe that would be a fun project for us.
Oh, yeah. I'd love a nice project like that, because it's anything. If it's connected to love, anything and everything is possible. It's wonderful. That's my view.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to leave I'll let you sign off. It's amazing how quickly time flies.
Yeah, it really, really does. More than anything else, I think we've talked about definitions. I would encourage our audience to when you have a negative thought about yourself or about your life or about something out there, you realize that you really don't want that thought. That thought isn't relevant for you. And it's time to go back and just examine why you have the thought. What perception is driving the thought of yourself or of your life or whatever, and do your best to eliminate it. Because the more you eliminate, the happier you're going to be, the more loving you're going to be as a person in this life and towards yourself and other people. That's basically it.
That's beautiful. More points to ponder from Michael J. Russ that makes my mind wonder and wander. Thank you. I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful to all of you for tuning in here on Connect to Love on PRN FM. Have an awesome week.
Thank you, everybody.